Good evening. Now we will begin the program.
Yatra, The Voyage, was a 4-month theatre workshop which resulted in Karunawen Sandenna, Attention Please, Sri Lanka's first bilingual theatre production. It is performed entirely by players, in this case a mix of school children and estate workers with no previous theatre experience. None of them had ever acted before, and only 2 had even seen a play staged. They were all brought together by the Interact Theatre Workshop. Kottagala was chosen for the workshop because of its ethnic composition, with many Sinhalese villagers and Tamil estate workers living in close proximity to each other. It is an area in the estate sector with very little entertainment facilities for its people, nothing to distract them from the hardships of their daily lives. The workshop provided for the first time an opportunity for the people in the area to express their creativity through the medium of theatre. The workshop used space provided for them by Siri Parakum Vidyalaya, a school in Kottagala. It was a unique experiment, bringing ordinary people of both communities with no acting experience together into one space and guiding them to build up and perform their own narrative. There was no script decided upon before the workshop. Instead, over a period of 4 months, the players were encouraged to tell stories, the stories of their lives, of their own experiences. They did so first simply as an exercise in expression.
ඕගොල්ලන්ට පෙන්නන්න. இந்த 4 மாசமாக இந்த நாடக பயிற்சி நடைபெற்று இருந்தது. இந்த நாடகத்துக்கு நடிப்புகள், இந்த கதைகளை எழுதினது நாமளே எழுதினோம். இதை உங்களுக்கு காட்டுவதற்காக நாமளே தயாரிச்சிருந்த கதை.
මේ වැඩසටහනේ තියෙන සියලුම සිද්ධි අපිම නිර්මාණය කරපු ඒවා. ඒ වගේම මේ වැඩසටහනේ තියෙන සිද්ධි සේරම අපිමයි රංග දක්වන්නේ. ඒක අපිට ලොකු සතුටක්.
ඒක ගහගන්න. දැන් තමයි මේ පරිසරයේ යථාර්ථය පේන්නේ. ඔව්. මේ වැස්ස, මීදුම, මේ හැම දෙයක්ම මේ ජීවිත. දැන් අපේ ජීවිතේ වෙලා. මේ ආවරණයක් විතර අපිට තියෙන්නේ. හා? අපේ කාලේක ළඟට එන ෆොටෝ ගන්න නම් දෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ අපිට ඒක. ඔව් මේ සුපිරි දරුවෝ ඉන්නේ අනාගතේ.
The facilitators who conducted the workshops encouraged them to enact their stories, and before the performance, some of these stories were chosen for the play, and the production was staged.
Right. හරි. Okay, දැන් අපි මේ අද උදේවරු කරන්න තියෙන වැඩ ටික තමයි ගෑල්ලමයිට තියෙනවා මේ ශාලාවේ තියෙන විදුහල්පතිතුමාගේ අවසරය අරන් දෙන්න මෙතන කවුද ඉන්දික නෑනේ මෙතන.
The workshop did not simply focus on a single theatre production. The participants were encouraged to draw their feelings about given topics as an exercise in visualization and expression.
මේ වටේටම ගම් ගානේ දීරුවට ගන්න. මං කියන්නද? හොඳ ගම් ගාන එක්කනයි මේ ගම් දෙන්නේ.
They drew and wrote on cards their impressions and ideas of Mother, their dreams and hopes, Kotagala, the place where they lived, and Colombo, the big city.
See what they think, people in these youth from Kotagala about people from Colombo, and what they think about themselves. This was done in another session later on. The same technique was used, and this is what they said about Kotagala. Sometimes they drew a picture, sometimes they were positive, sometimes they gave certain words which showed the problems. Very interesting here, Buruo, donkeys, and being alone, Hudakalawai, clever, and this came very often, Dushkarai. It's a difficult.
The cards formed part of their narrative, and they were displayed at each of the performances. The stories they told and later enacted brought out the experiences of their daily lives and the issues they were faced with every day. The moderators only assisted them, teaching them acting tips and techniques to present their stories. Karunawen Sandenna is a narrative of the daily lives of the people of Kotagala. The workshop just gave the people a forum and helped them with stagecraft.
මේ
The setting for the play is the train station at Kotagala. It brings together a mixed group of people, all waiting for a late train to Colombo. The first narrative follows the relationship between a Sinhalese boy and a Tamil girl as it develops despite the language barrier. It ends because the boy decided to go out of the country to seek employment. It helps bring out the dynamics and difficulties of trying to maintain personal relationships while also trying to overcome a language and cultural barrier.
මෙහෙමන බම්බොත් කොහොම වුණත් මම රට යන්න ගත්ත තීරණය එච්චරයි. அப்படியே அப்ப அவங்க வீட்ல நம்ம பேசி கேட்டுட்டு போங்க போறீங்க. என்ன பத்தி கலைக்காங்க சரியா? வரோ வராய். சரியான பொறுக்காரங்க. மணிவேகடா. කොහොම නවතින්නේ?
One of the scenes brings out the historical root of many of the problems the people face today. It is set in 1890 when indentured labor was brought in from India to work on the tea plantations.
உங்களுக்கு நல்ல சலுகைகள் அங்க பாருங்க 10 கேமரா லைன்ஸ் குதிரை கட்டி மாதிரி கட்டி போட்டுருக்கோம். நிம்மதியா
Many of the laborers were contracted by agents and brought over on the basis of false promises. One that the scene details is that they were given the impression that red onions and dried fish would grow under the tea bushes. In other words, that their material well-being would be taken care of. The scene represents a group of workers who complain about the inability to obtain food at affordable prices. Their grievances are aired to a foreman who says that the rations will be provided. He is repeating the same empty promises that prompted these people to leave their homes and try to find work on the plantations. When the foreman is questioned by the plantation owner as to how the work is going, He says it is going well, that there is no problem.
No problem, sir. ஐயா அந்த கம்பளி எல்லாம் துறையிட்டு சொல்லி நான் ஒண்ணுமில்லப்பா நான் எழுதி வச்சிருக்கேன். What are you saying? No sir, is night sleeping on கம்பளி. Very nice sir. No problem sir. Please tell.
The hiring of labor through an agent, introduced through this part of the play, continues to happen today and continues to affect the people of the area. It takes the form of children and young people being hired to work in homes in cities as domestic servants. Sometimes families are forced to marry their children away because of an expected improvement to their financial situation.
බැංගලා ඉස්කෝලේ යනවා. මෙන්න මෙහාට වෙලා ඉන්නවා සමයක් කතා කරන්නේ. අංකල් මට යන්න දෙන්න. අනේ ළමයෝ මෙහාට වෙලා ඉන්නවා. අනේ අයියේ මාවගේ කෙනෙක් කියන්නකෝ.
The theme of financial hardship is again explored through a scene in which a single actor laments his personal misfortune on stage. He speaks of the impermanence of life and reflects on its changes, speaking of times when he had money and friends, and how both since disappeared. The scene has added gravity because the actor was introduced initially as waiting for the train in order to commit suicide. Most estate workers feel strongly that they are not recognized as Sri Lankan citizens. They are not given identity papers by the government, but are only given papers from the estate, which prevents them from seeking employment outside. Many of the actors themselves do not have Sri Lankan national identity cards. They are harassed by the police when they can't produce these documents and can't prove their identity. They run the risk of being arrested arbitrarily if there is any civil disturbance. The aftermath of a riot forms the dramatic final scene of the play. Each actor mourns his individual misfortunes. They are so caught up in their individual losses that they refuse to help a woman to save her dying child. While the scene, like all the others, was developed by the actors themselves, it tells a very difficult, very personal story. Each of the actors was personally affected by riots and communal violence. During the creation of the scene, at the Yatra workshop and at many rehearsals, many of the actors wept openly as they played out their own personal memories. As they performed, it is sometimes painfully apparent that they are not just acting. The scene has added significance because the performance in Colombo, when much of the footage of the play was recorded, was staged on a day when communal violence flared up and claimed lives again in the city. The moderator, as he stops the scene, comments that what the audience just witnessed was played out in the city a few hours before, and says that it is because of such violence that so many of the seats at the day's performance were empty. While this underlines the reality of the issues the play addresses, there can be some doubt as to whether Karunawen Sandenna even needed such a reality check. Thank you for your attention.
Wah, kita kalau